for 8 months. So part of the thrill of this is whether or not the guest is going to show up. But here you are. He did it.
I was just thinking, I'll just be conspicuously late and obnoxious, because that's always a good way to forge a friendship, don't you think?
I think so, yeah. Well, here we are. I think we're off to a good start. All right, I'm going to do the intro. Ready? Hey, what's up, America? Welcome to Get to Know the CEO, the show where we attempt to humanize corporate America through the magic and power of stupid questions. It's hosted by America's sweetheart, Eric Ryan. I am America's sweetheart, Eric Ryan. And today's guest is Wendy Weiner Runge. Did I get that right?
Enough. Yeah, who cares?
She's an award-winning film producer, writer, entrepreneur, keynote speaker, and the CEO of Now What Studios. But not only that, you were also the Sledgehammer of Love. Would you like to expound on the Sledgehammer of Love?
You do your due diligence, dude. Thank you so much. Yeah. On the set of my first feature film, called The Scientist, beautiful little film, I bought everybody sweatshirts at the end with a logo on it and their nickname. Everybody gets a nickname on set. I got a sweatshirt, no nickname. I didn't order them. I just paid for them. So I asked everybody, like, why don't I have a nickname? They're like, they just walked away. Little whatever, walked away. Wow. Finally, I grabbed my young and impressionable assistant and I said, why don't I have a nickname on my shirt? He said, we didn't want to tell you what your nickname was. And I was like, how bad could it be? I sign your paychecks. Yeah. I feed you. I fix your boo-boos. Like, what's the deal? Mm-hmm. And he said, your nickname is Sledgehammer of Love.
Oh,
and I thought that was great.
That's not bad. That's a pretty good nickname.
I thought that was great. And he was like, oh my God, we thought you'd be so pissed. And I was like, no, why would I be angry? I think that's cool. Like, that's a badge of honor. I'm going to sledgehammer you, but I'm going to do it with love. And so that's how I got the name. And then
good nickname.
I kind of liked it. And people were like, oh, and they're like, oh, we thought you missed that.
Whatever. No. I think that's tattoo worthy. Have you got it tattooed anywhere yet?
Not telling. No. Why would I ever get that tattooed on my body?
If you don't have a sledgehammer,
tattooed on someone else, though. I guess it would be backwards if I. Anyway, so it's all good. So that's a scoop.
All right. By the end of the show,
super secret nickname. Come on, pony up.
America's sweetheart. I'm America's sweetheart, Eric.
That's not a nickname, because that's the first thing on your LinkedIn. That's not a nickname. Something that someone called you in your life that was like, wait a minute.
It was weird.
I didn't call you Buster Poindexter or anything with the hair.
No, they used to call me the weed whacker of lust. That's strange, right?
We're a couple of tools.
All right. Hey, listen, you want to get on with the show? Nice job. Okay. Are you ready to bare your soul to the American public by answering the 5 questions of doom?
Yes.
Okay, here we go.
And I think you need to pick some girl questions too, so next time.
You don't think these are girl questions? I mean, books. That's kind of reading, right? It's feminine. No men read. Men don't read. Stop it.
Books. Okay. What is that? Books. I've seen. Oh yeah, I have an English literature degree. Yeah. Okay, we're good. Go for it. Hit me. Hit me with your
sandwich with words, but we're not doing that first. The first thing we're doing is your 3 favorite bands. I got to tell you, I've done some iteration of the show hundreds of times. These 3 have never appeared. They're wildly original.
So the other day I was talking to my son Zach Runge, cool guy, and I said I'm doing a podcast and I have to give him my 3 favorite bands.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh my God, Air Supply.
All right, we can't skip. Let's go in order, because all 3 of them are a little okay. So this, first of all, this dapper fella has never appeared. As a matter of fact, no big band composer or jazz pianist has. Count Basie.
Okay.
What?
My dad recently passed away. He's a jazz drummer. Like, literally gigged the few days before he passed away. He was a jazz drummer my whole life. There was always a set of drums in the basement. I think I maybe sat down with him 5 times. It was not of interest to me, but he loved it. And he would play shows, anything. So he loved Count Basie. So when I was 14, he took us to a concert. Now, arguably, Basie was old then. I don't know, 14, I was 65, do the math, 81. Right. No, I didn't do the math right. Anyway, so 79. So he had an oxygen mask on. He was in a little scooter, but he still conducted the band, and that was a big deal, Count Basie's band. So he pulls a little scooter to the front of the stage, big auditorium, big theater, and he asks for questions. And I have my hand up first.
Wow.
And he says, "Yes, young lady." And I said, "I don't really have a question count. I would just like a kiss." And the audience went nuts. And he's like, "Well, get up here, girl." So I came on stage and I kissed Count Basie, which could be my claim to fame. I'm good with that.
Yeah, you made out with Count Basie. That's pretty amazing. I've never made out with any jazz pianist, so you get one up on me.
Oh, wait, I made out with Count Basie while he was living. Anything good. He kissed me on the cheek. It was all good. That said, everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, what won't she do?" And the answer has still not been determined. What won't she do? So there you go.
Maybe we'll find out. So I wish I was the kind of guy that liked jazz, because then I could look down on people that don't get jazz, but I just don't get jazz. What do you do? Do you cook and listen to jazz? Do you drink and listen to jazz? What occasion calls for jazz these days?
So I spent a lot of quality time with my parents, and they passed away 20 weeks apart, and they were huge jazz fans. So all my life, that was the music. When MTV came on, like first opened, first like boom, made a debut. We were watching one late one Saturday night, and my dad walks in the room. And he looks at these guys like, I don't remember who it was, some heavy metal, some ridiculous band. And we were like really loving it. And he's like, "What do those guys do for a living?" And we're like, "Music, Dad." He goes, "That ain't music." And he walked out. So it was just what we were raised with. So I don't cook very much. My husband's a chef. So I mean, I do. But his stuff comes from these books called cookbooks and stuff. He uses called recipes. I don't do that. And so it is very much mood music for me. If there's a certain character that I need to write or a certain thing, and jazz is expanded. So jazz is the birth of hip hop. Like everything comes out of jazz, pretty much. So it's kind of, you see that it's like the young child that has become amazing. So that said, so that's when I would listen to jazz, is when I have to channel a certain character and then be able to, and then just boom, hit it and go. I'm a big Ella Fitzgerald fan. I like whatever, like all of it. So big fan. They're all dead. I'm like, ooh, but whatever. So yeah.
Man, I wish I was the kind of guy that liked, jazz and nightclubs and dirty martinis, but I like football and IPAs and Aerosmith. And I don't like that about myself. I think I'd be a lot cooler.
Steps. Football rocks. What's your team?
I don't know if you've heard of them, the 6-time champion New England Patriots. Have you know this guy?
Patriots. Oh, the one that Brady defected and then won a Super Bowl in Tampa, that one?
That never happened, but it is.
Nile is not just a river in Egypt. Okay, cool. Anyway, so my dad was also a college football referee. So I used to work the chain as a kid. So I love football.
So you can like football and jazz. Oh, that's exciting. Hey, I'll give it a shot.
Okay, cool.
The other thing that fascinates me about big band is I was watching some Count Basie stuff on YouTube, and it is a big band. Like you get like 50 people, their instruments, everybody's dressed up in suits. Like how the hell, how do you make any money doing that? It's the economics of this are fascinating. And I went to his Wikipedia page. It's got to be crazy, like in the Harlem jazz scene where everybody's hanging out and doing wild shit. Like that's a way to live. Not as B2B stuff.
So really, it sounds like you're talking yourself into this fandom, dude. I mean, it's not like you not said, "Oh my gosh, it was opera and they can't talk during." No. This was life. This is and the thing is, like, so music is math, and so everybody had this sensibility, like, "Oh, I can do this, I can do that," and when they just got together, and the band leader was the bomb because he made sure everyone worked in sync, like an executive producer. It's similar. Got to make sure everything works, and that's what I do. So if I can make it work, it comes out great. When you've seen a film and you're like, I'm sure you've watched a movie and you're like, those two leads have no chemistry. Either it's a buddy film or it's a romance, whatever it is. It's like that's a problem with the director. That's a problem. Like they couldn't conjure it. And there are some things that you can do, like in that scenario, you're like, yeah, they ain't getting along. Shoot the love scenes first. Or they have a chance to hate each other. That's a thing.
So you're like the Count Basie of Hollywood in a lot of ways.
My own little Hollywood in my mind, and it will be. Yeah, I like to put it together. Yeah, and I like to put things together on set. Again, Sledgehammer of Love. So it would be my band name, I think, if I had to do a band name. And
it's not too late.
I'll give you another insider movie tip. If you have to shoot a scene where the characters are snorting cocaine. It is powdered sugar because insurance would prohibit us from doing anything.
Wait a second. When actors snort coke, it's powdered sugar. Is that safer?
You can only do 2 takes because they snort it once, okay, on one side, okay, never get that take. Snort the other side, get that take. They're done for the day. They wrap for the day because after that they start sneezing frosting.
I would argue that obesity is a bigger problem than cocaine. So I think it would be safer if you did real coke. Has anybody considered that? I understand the illegality of it.
I'm comfortable dabbling in obesity, and I don't do coke, so I don't know.
I got to tell you, I'm a huge fan. All right, your second band, again, first appearance on this. It's fascinating. This, ladies and gentlemen, if you've never seen Air Supply, this is an actual rock and roll band. They are an Australian soft rock duo. They make grocery store classics, I think, right? Don't they? I mean,
and you know what else they make?
What?
Bank.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. They're just all right. Tell me about how did one fall in love with Air Supply?
When my son said it to me, I'm like, that is so obscure because that's so obscure. And then I was like, yeah, I'm just going to write that down. So you cannot tell me that there aren't songs that may predate Aerosmith in your life or before you were Aerosmith, that you hear it and you go, oh, like that. That's Air Supply for me. I don't know.
I looked up because I think they're generally regarded as not cool, which is, I think that's a fair assessment. And somebody goes, why do people not like Air Supply? And somebody goes, it's one of those bands your sister liked. I was like, yeah, I think that's but right. I don't, here's the thing with Air Supply. I think,
first of all, Air Supply, the concept is extraordinarily important. So already the name has an extraordinary importance.
There's a gravitas to the name, but it's one of those things where, okay, they're not cool. Their songs are not, I understand why people might like them, but they're not cool. I think it's hard to you can't retroactively hate something. You can retroactively like something. This is one of my theories. So like a lot of Aerosmith and Pink Floyd and Zeppelin, who I love, predates my existence, but I like it because but I can't retroactively hate like disco because it wasn't competing with anything I loved at the time. Mm-hmm. And that's where Air Supply, I'm just entertained by their existence. Their videos are hilarious. They're so earnest.
So dated, so earnest.
Yeah, it's kind of beautiful.
Fans are going nuts.
Right. And
they're
I'm sure
the last cheesy love song band, one of them that like women would throw their underpants on stage. Like look at these guys. Would you think
this is a rock duo? You would never, if I showed you anybody these two pictures, I go, what do they do?
They own a car wash. They look like they own a car wash.
Yeah, some bowling league, maybe. Not rock
maybe
stars,
with the jackets, maybe. Well, Michael Jackson, kind of a precursor. I think the one is Satin.
All three of us are in red jackets right now, so maybe it could be a trio. So they're still alive.
They are alive. I think they still perform intermittently. They still got the pipes. So that's a thing. Also, men keep your pipes longer. Your vocal cords are stronger. Women, lose it, and external factors and hormones and life and whatever. I mean, even Aretha had to kick it down. Ella had to kick it down an octave so they could hit the high notes. So it's a thing. But these guys
they still got it.
Yeah.
Can I answer this? Have you ever made out with either member of Air Supply?
No, thank God. And I can.
You think there's still hope? I think though. They're
they're not dead.
They're not dead.
Ample Air Supply left. I don't know.
I see what you did there. All right, here we go. The third band. I like them, but the audacity of this name, it's hard to spell. It's hard, looking it up on Spotify is a pain in the ass, and it's hard to pronounce. But
they're everywhere. You just don't know it. They're everywhere.
I know.
Everywhere.
Kronben, is that how you pronouncing it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, which is Thai for airplane. Did you know that?
I think I did at one point in time.
And the lady has said that if she knew that they were going to be popular, she would not have named the band this because it's hard to pronounce and hard to look up. They are hard to pin down. They're soul, they're dub, they're rock, they're psychedelia. That song they did with Leon Bridges, Texas Sun, unbelievable.
Insane.
Oh my God, it's so good.
Yeah.
But this is another sort of, I'd say they're almost jazzy in the sense that there's a lot going on and it's very
there's three of them. Yeah.
Yeah, unlike a big band, there's only 3 of these guys.
Doing, and look, she's wearing wigs because she doesn't want to be recognized elsewhere. It's like a thing. I think they, shaved head, he had whatever. Like, so my producing partner for life, Noah Bewley, said, "Oh, love them," and then he went to Mexico and saw them in concert, like on the beach in Cabo, and that was like an experience. But he had loved them for years. And it's just kind of one of the soundtracks. So we do a lot of location scouting, and we do a lot of driving to locations because he's one of those guys who he's one of those human beings that 16 tabs are open all the time. And so he's constantly aware of everything and just his brain is incredible. And his compassion is cool too. He's like just an amazing guy. I'm super blessed. And I'll tell you a whack way I met him. And so driving like 17 hours at a stretch, it's just a great background kind of zen. It's more interesting than just doing nothing at the same time. It's just really, so it goes into under my skin, like in a like happy way. Gotcha. So that's a scoop. So that's why I like them so much.
They're also confusing visually because when they're on stage, they look like rock stars. They're dressed up like fucking David Bowie, but then they don't really move. They're like one of those like strong silent types. I can't tell if they're weird and cool or weird or cool. They're just they're out there, which it's very interesting.
Did I open your eyes to these 3 particular musical?
I knew that because of the Leon Bridges song. I listened to a lot more because of you. And honestly, I listened to a lot more Air Supply than I thought I ever would. But so
win. And some Count Basie.
Yeah. That was an eclectic group of music you had there. All right. Now, I would say that you're the next category. Favorite movies. I think there might be a little bit of a through line here. Well, certainly with the first 2 anyway. All right. You want to talk about your first one?
I think the first one. Yeah. So Wizard of Oz was made in 1939, the year my mother was born. And it was the first Technicolor movie. Black and white, Technicolor, black and white to really denote. And it also had 4 different directors. So there's a film industry love of this movie. Tells a great, strong story. The actors all had their own crazy backstories. They had to swap people out. I think I can't remember who was the Tin Man, and then the makeup.
Yeah, it was Toxic.
And Toxic, like a thing. Yeah. And name will come to anyway. So Buddy Ebsen was the Tin Man, and so then that's like there's a lot 4 different directors. Like when have you ever heard of a film that required 4 different directors? But it was a huge endeavor, and the technical part of it, and the logistics. And then as Judy Garland, God bless her soul, got older, she started to kind of riff on what the Munchkins were all doing backstage. Allegedly, none of it's true, but the stories are hysterical.
And were all the Munchkins drunk and fondling people?
That's what she said, but the reality was like they were just they were a German. They didn't even speak English really. A lot of them. They were German, like Drew, like I don't know, circus group, and they whatever. So there was a lot going on in background and foreground. Yeah. And it's a great message. There's no place like home. So for me, people are like, oh, what's home for you? Because my mother, God bless her soul, used to say to me all the time, Wendy, you're never uncomfortable anywhere. So I think I pushed the bounds of that maybe at this one time, but we'll see where, So, and I wasn't, I'm not. So what's home for me is wherever my Wi-Fi hooks up automatically.
It's a very wholesome message, just like in The Wizard of Oz.
I know. There's no place like Wi-Fi. There's no place like Wi-Fi.
Ain't that the truth? This is my mother's favorite movie. She's not.
Yeah. So it's just such an impactful. So that's why that's iconic. We used to stop and watch it when we were kids with her, and when it was on TV, like it wasn't a thing. And it was also a box office failure. It came out in a year that had enormous big films, Going with the Wind, like all this stuff. And those all took the awards. And this one just kind of got disregarded. People didn't really believe until Color TV came in 1957. And they're like, what are we going to put on that's really going to demonstrate how cool Color TV is? And they pulled this one out of the archives and you're like, oh, and then it was just, there are films that are not marketed properly or come out at the wrong time. You can't know. You pick a slot for a movie to come out a year or 2 years in advance. You can't know what else is going on. COVID, like you can't know. On the other side of it, There's films like Princess Bride, box office failure, because they didn't market it right. They didn't know. So, and that would be, I did enjoy that one, but this is one that I can watch and really it takes me back. So I like the message, like home is within you and who you're around, from my perspective, and if you're like.
I think the movie itself is great. I think it still holds up. It's a very watchable movie, despite the fact that it's almost 100 years old.
And the monkeys are still scary. I'm sorry. The monkeys.
What fascinates me about The Wizard of Oz is I always, so the Jurassic Park moment for me was a big deal, because up to that point we had like stop motion animation. You know, when you saw a dinosaur on the movie screen and it looked like a dinosaur, it was absolutely mind blowing. Now we're jaded to all new technology, CGI, everything looks spectacular. But seeing those dinosaurs we're like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. That's what this movie must have. Think about 1939. This is a Technicolor movie. And in terms of like music, for example, 200 years ago, if there wasn't a piano in your town, you didn't know what a piano sounded like, because there was no recording devices. Right. So you were seeing stuff like, you know, I don't want to get too weird about it, but little people. If there wasn't a little person in your town, you're like, what the fuck is this? Flying monkeys, the lion.
You're like, what?
A red horse, like everything in 1939 must have blown your goddamn mind when you watch this movie. And unless you think about that,
can we? I start to show you something that. So what does it have to do? Now it can't be technically it has to be so emotionally engaging. You're like,
yeah, it's almost
in your own air supply.
I know it has to be right. The next movie has to be Air Supply-esque, because it's spun full circle. It used to be you couldn't do great graphics and animation because you didn't have it. Now we have it and it's perfect. So you almost
or it was great for its time, and 10 years later, people are like, whatever.
Oh, some of the stuff 10 years ago looks so embarrassing. And then that look in 50 years prior to that was the greatest thing you'd ever seen. It's just moving too fast.
The first CGI Forrest Gump was the feather at the end of the movie. And that was $100,000 shot, which everyone thought you're insane, Zemeckis. That's not.
Yeah. And now look.
That opened the door. That little feather, you look back at it now and you're like, whatever. And then it was monument.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, this is a point of contention with me with The Wizard of Oz. I looked it up on Rotten Tomatoes, 98%. Who are the 2% of assholes who watch this and go, no, not for me? You're just trying too hard at this point.
It's like, I'm special. Monkey people, man. It's the people who are like, those monkeys are too damn scary. We're not doing it. We're not going to do that. I think there are scary elements to it, but
it doesn't make it a bad movie. It's just these people are being pretentious assholes. They want to stand out and go, you know what? I don't like The Wizard of Oz. I'm like, shut up. Everyone likes.
I hate that song. Actually, the song "Over the Rainbow" was the producer said, "Cut that song. It doesn't do anything for us."
I read that today about the fun facts about The Wizard of Oz. I also read that out of this movie came the Little People of America advocacy group. So I don't know if they were being exploited, these German munchkins, but they banded together, which is nice. A lot of good came out of The Wizard of Oz.
A lot of good. A lot of good, and a lot of and. 1939, so 85 years later, we're still talking about it.
Right? Still slaps. This movie holds up in totality. Yeah.
How many films can you say that? This one.
Okay, well, let me tell you, this is why I think there's a through line. When I was doing my research here, Roger Ebert, the great Roger Ebert, said, probably the best movie of its sort since The Wizard of Oz.
Interesting.
Whimsical, fantastical, I don't know. Good songs.
Yeah. Great songs. They say that the song "There Is No Life I Know," that song is the best film song ever. A lot of musicians have said that. The thing is, I think they're just saying that's just creepy. Anyway, so the thing is, they first of all, Gene Wilder is an unusual casting for that. It was unusual. He was kind of a comedic, kind of a whatever, and he did this in Blazing Saddles like back to back. So you look at him and go, "Ooh, he's diverse," but he said, I will only do the film. I will only take this role if you allow me to enter for the first time they see my character. I'm going to have a cane and I'm going to walk and I'm going to do a somersault at the end. I'm going to walk all the way out of the factory. And then when I get there, the cane's going to get stuck and I'm going to reverse and get up and do that. And they're like, why would you want to do that?
You got to trust them.
He said, they will never know. The audience will never know when I'm lying or I'm not. So think about your favorite character in a film. How they enter is just as important as everything that comes after it. you know, how does the audience first encounter them? That's a very big deal. First impressions count. First impressions count. So that's a thing. So, and it has the best last line ever. The last scene, and they're in the elevator, the Wonkavator, and he grabs Charlie by his shoulders, which is now a titch creepy that they're alone in a room that's crashing through the ceiling. But now, then we didn't notice that creepiness. And he says, Charlie, do you know what happened to the little boy who got everything he ever wanted? And Charlie's terrified. And he's like, no, what? And he said, he lived happily ever after.
That's a great line. I didn't know that was the last line. Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So you think about like the grandparents in the bed and like the whole deal, and this kid is supporting the family. Like it's a whole thing. Great books, great. But the way they portrayed it, now the kid who played Charlie never acted again.
One and done.
Yep, that's good. He is a large animal veterinarian in upstate New York, last I heard.
Oh.
And so once a year, he speaks one time, and he goes to his kids' elementary school, who are long out, and that's probably his grandkids. And he shows the movie and tells the story.
Wow. That's it. He never major picture, gets in, gets out. Huh.
Right. Not like he made a lot of money for it. Not like that. He just saw what it was about. Very intense role, and then he walked away. Arguably, that's a great plan. That's great. So, but he, and his kids didn't even believe it was him at first, and he had to like show them. Like, that's
you know what I was just thinking about? The through line between Wizard of Oz and Willy Wonka is in Wizard of Oz, they're trying to kill a child. And then in Willy Wonka, they do kill a bunch of children. So that's another similarity that I think Robert.
They didn't kill them. They just reorganized them.
I don't know. The blueberry girl, didn't she pop? I mean, you can't get that big and come back.
They juiced her. Violet, you're turning Violet. Yeah, it's a thing.
I'm not.
Quotable lines. Veruca Salt, band name now. Boom. Like there's a, Golden Goose. Oh, whatever. I want songs. Yeah.
The world is with you too. 92% on Rotten Tomatoes. So Willy Wonka, universally.
I was looking for the world to be like, yeah, Wendy, you're right. I have never cared about that at all. Keep going, sweetheart. Let's keep going.
Ready? Oh, okay. I haven't seen this since I was a kid, but I watched some highlights last night and fucking laugh out loud funny because a jolly drunk, which is, I think because I watched this early, I thought everybody got happy when they drank. Nobody smacked their wives around or anything. It's just like Arthur. There's a line where he's picking up prostitutes and one of the chicks goes, what do you have in mind? And he goes, VD, I'm very into penicillin. Tremendous. And then his butler says, normally you have to go to a bowling alley to find a woman of your stature. I mean, there's just so many. I think I love insult comedy, and there's a lot of that in this. So why Arthur?
The most unlikely success story. So he had just come out. He'd done the movie 10 with oh my gosh, gorgeous. Anyway, I'll think of it.
Yeah. Daryl Hannah, is that her?
Thank you. No.
No, the other one. Shit. It's Daryl Hannah adjacent though.
Yeah. So she,
Bo Derek.
Thank you.
There we go.
Good call from the producers. So he just done that in film, and that was a very kind of a meek kind of a character, and Liza Minnelli had just a few years earlier had just won the Oscar for Chicago, I think. Chicago or no? Yeah, maybe not Chicago. No. She won the Oscar with Joel Grey, musical, whatever. So she's an Oscar winner, and not traditionally a beautiful leading lady. And he is 5'1", not traditionally a romantic lead, like in a fantastic pianist and an old British comedian, sketch comedian. And the director put them together, a $7 million budget. The writer-director put them together for this, and they begged Sir John Gielgud to do that, to be Hobson, the butler, the very
hilarious butler. Yeah,
hilarious. And he did not want to do it. The most expensive thing, they paid him more money than everybody else got. Most of the thing in the film was his character. They wanted him so badly. And then he won an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor for this, and he was angry the rest of his life because he said, I've done Shakespeare for 60 years. I've done stage. I've done this, and I'm going to be remembered for those lines, and those lines that he has are priceless. Yeah. And he delivers them fantastically. So it's a great, great story. where you see him, Arthur, who's virtually unredeemable, and why should he be redeemed? And has to marry a woman he hates, the mob boss's daughter, who's just whatever, and who's like a booger. Like you just want to wipe her off, and like it's just nothing. And falls in love with Liza Minnelli when she shoplifts a tie from Bergdorf Goodman, and he said it's the perfect crime. And Hobson, and it's like, what are you talking about? And he said, well, like, why would a woman need a tie? And then she deflects. The cops come after her, and like the security guard, and she's like, no, I didn't. And he just walks up to her, damsel in distress, walks up and says, oh, sweetheart, did you get the tie that I asked you to get? And she's like, yes. Did you put on your account? They don't know each other. It's the best BS like opening you ever see for characters I've ever seen. And then you go into the story where he can't marry her because he has to marry that woman, otherwise he loses all his money, and he has to make a choice. And it is so powerful the way he struggles to be the good guy, but he learns to be the good guy. He learns, he says to her, if you ever got sick, this is his only way to, if you ever got sick, I'd take care of you. And she said, so I'll get sick.
It's a heartwarming story, and it's hilarious, which
is huge and a great lesson. And do the due diligence. Brilliant teaming, everything. Why didn't this director do anything else?
He died at 44 of a heart attack.
In Hollywood kills you.
Hollywood does kill you. You know what I liked about this movie?
A great opening song, Christopher Cross, who's not my favorite band, but
the theme to Arthur. It's Air Supply could have done that song. I think that's in the same zip code.
I think it is in the same zip code. It's certainly the same, chapter in history. So yeah.
Oh yeah. The other thing too is a connection to Wizard of Oz. Liza Minnelli is fucking Dorothy's daughter, right?
The river that runs through it, babe. It's not. Yeah.
And every time I see Liza Minnelli, I get happy because she was so good in Arrested Development. So, it brings me.
So, I had a friend, a great old friend of mine, just recently passed away. God, everybody around me is dying. So he passed away like 3 days from my mom. Like it was whatever. And he said to me, you look like Liza Minnelli before she went to rehab.
What a hell of a compliment that is.
I don't know. And then I was like, but you can't find any photographs of her before she went to rehab. So I have looked assiduously to like, hey, where are we going to find this? Yeah. Can't find this. So
I mean, listen, anytime somebody says you look like a movie star, can be bad.
Yeah, whatever.
Right? Yeah. All right, your 3 favorite books. Oh, well, very interesting. The first, Victorian classic, Great Expectations. Can I just say this? So this is what a book cover should look like. The movie took a little bit of a
well, sure. I've never seen the movie, actually.
Neither have I, but the audacity, like this looks like some sort of sex crime drama, which is not, I don't think, what Great Expectations is about. What spoke to you about Great Expectations?
So, you'll think this is funny. So, Great Expectations about a really poor kid who gets is enamored with a girl, and a woman says, who's the caretaker of the girl, says, the kid's name is Pip, and it's a nickname, and
he's enamored with hot Uma Thurman, Gwyneth Paltrow, who is Estella. Is that her name? Estella?
Yeah. And she's just cold. There's nothing. There's no emotional component to her at all. And so so he all of a sudden becomes a kid. They take him out of a situation, and he is like put in high level schools and the British, the really high level boarding schools. And she assumes it's the caretaker of this girl his whole life. But in fact, he meets. I didn't have any good music for there. He has actually done a favor for an escaped criminal who got off a work boat that was taking him to work, and he was like all shackled up. And as a kid, he was terrified, and he gave him food, and he helped him get a saw so he could cut his chains and he could go free. In fact, it is that guy who has always been watching over him and supporting him. And so I do like that whole criminal element, like that there is whatever. And then they, at the end, become reacquainted. And there are 2 endings because Charles Dickens he was paid by the word, a lot of details in there. And someone said, you can't have that ending. It's just far too morose. So there's an alternative ending that he wrote. And there you go. So I like the idea of redemption doesn't necessarily come from where you think it's going to come from. And the people who are cruel and like literally have the kindness beaten out of them don't necessarily regenerate it. Sometimes they're just lost, and that's just the way it is. Can't redeem them.
I read this in 8th grade, I think, and it's just too early to read this. I think for me, because guys don't read. I just remember Pip in Miss Havisham, but I watched a lot of reviews. It's semi-complicated. There's a lot of characters. The Pockets, remember them? I mean, there's a lot going on.
Right, he got paid by the word. More words, more money.
That's why it's so long and involved. Oh my God! Well, that sheds some light on it. All right. Well,
so
did you know in the screen adaptation they changed the main character's name from Pip to Finn? It's not very cool.
So Pip, I think, was his Philip. I think was his first name. So yeah, whatever. Yeah. I haven't read it in a long, long time, but it does rank as one of my favorites. I like the idea of people failing at redeeming somebody else.
Yeah, I didn't see the twist. I forgot that the guy that robs him in the beginning turns out to be his benefactor, which is a convenient plot point. Your second book, this is the Malcolm Gladwell one and not the biblical story, or is it the biblical story?
Well, the first story, I love Malcolm Gladwell. I think Malcolm is a brilliant writer. 7 out of 10 of his books, that whatever, like 70%, are just mind-blowing. Tipping Point, this one. But I like David and Goliath because it plays so well into the film industry. Like what we write is the unexpected character doing unexpected things and becoming the obvious hero. And so David, in the story, he examines all kinds of biblical and medical things and all kinds of things. It turns out David knew, like, he's a little guy, physically little, can't wear the armor, he can't do it. And how's he going to take on this huge giant? But he understands that from raising, I don't know how he understands it, but he knows that the giant has a overactive pituitary gland. That's why he's so big. And that also leads to him being very, very farsighted. So he can't see him. And so he's all, get him with a slingshot. And they're like, you're a moron. Well, we don't care. You're a shepherd. Go for it. And he defeats him because he can't see close up. So there's all kinds of things so what makes the unexpected hero? I love that. I love the idea that someone like, there's no way in this project we're working on, My Golden Blood, the boy is, has a certain capacity for greatness. Oh, thank you.
This My Golden Blood. Look at the production value on this show. It's unbelievable.
It's gonna blow your mind. And he too is no way. He's 99% unredeemable. But you just find that one thing.
I love that you're painting some connection between Arthur, the drunk socialite, David from the biblical story, and I'm sorry. So is this a book that you've written?
Yes, we wrote the book series, and where it's going to it's going to television, episodic. Oh. So platform not to be disclosed yet, but it will be. So yes, this is what I do. Because I don't know if you heard about the thing COVID. There was that little thing COVID. So we'd written the film script and then the book series. And then our producers in Hollywood are like, theatrical is kind of down now, but the books are in chapters. Why don't we go episodic? So basically, My Golden Blood is Stranger Things with a purpose.
Stranger Things. Is it set in the 80s?
No. Okay. It's set in 2030.
Oh.
A little futuristic.
Right around the corner.
A little bit like, oh, that could happen. And that's the scoop. So, my partner brought in story. So this is probably my favorite story ever. I tell this all the time. My producing partner, Noah Bewley, 8 years ago, was my Lyft driver in Los Angeles.
And this came out of a conversation in the Lyft.
Yep.
See, life is all about small twists of fate, ain't it? Don't you think? That Lyft doesn't come. That some other driver, none of this happens.
Interestingly enough, had just walked out of a meeting that a project that I had shaped for a year fell apart, and I walked out of the meeting and I called Lyft, and the producer came out and said, "Oh, let me talk to you about something," and I canceled that Lyft, and then we talked for a minute, and then I called him for another Lyft. And Noah, when he had just started to drive Lyft in LA. He had moved from the central coast of California to LA. And he just started driving, and he said, I'm going to drive Lyft at night because I'm looking for a producer who can get my work out. I know I have the creativity, but I don't know the venue. I don't know how to get it out there.
And look, do you believe in fate, or do you think the world?
It's all God. It's all ordained. Like it's all like I got out of a project that had collapsed, and I got into the car with him, and we both knew 10:51 at night. Like we both knew, like there's something here. And I said, look, you need a mentor, and I'm not geographically desirable. Otherwise, I would happily. I mentor a lot of millennials, but I know a lot of great people in LA, and I'm sure they would have coffee with you and like read your stuff and help you. And he's like, great, I'll take you up on that. That's great. But if we can, like, it's okay. And I said, yeah, until we get you somebody that's just perfect. Yeah. And I said, and I knew when I got out of the car that if I made a promise this one, I was going to keep it. Like I'm going to make sure that this one gets what he needs. And fast forward, I give my email address, text, whatever, give him my card. And 2 days later, I give my card to a lot of people, millennials, and they're like, oh, I got a card, big deal. And I never hear from them. 2 days later, I'm back in Minnesota, and I get an email that just has one line on it. And the subject line says, hi, this is Noah, your Lyft driver, with a smile. And I had fire hosed him with questions. Do you have a dialogue coach? How are you doing this? What do you have an omniscient? Like stuff. And he answered everything like smoothly and calmly, well thought out. And I know he's like the age of my kids. So I was like, oh, this guy really has his act together. He knows where he wants to go with this. He just doesn't know how to get there. So I looked for a mentor for him. And then I was like, so then he sent me the first 15 pages. And it was the script for the
blown
film.
Away.
I was like, this is really good. But I like this kid. So I'm going to send it to 2 guys on my team who don't like anything. And they came back and they went, this is really interesting. And I texted him. Whew, and I said, I think we should go into business and produce your film. And like those 3 dots, man, and he's like, I'll take you up that opportunity. Wow. And then my youngest, who's way smarter than I'll ever be, I point here because she's like usually here. So to me, Mom, you know nothing about Noah. You really, you're spending a lot of time mentoring him, and you're going to go into business with him. You should Google him and see if he's a serial killer.
No.
Google has that. That's a good idea.
Did he kill anybody?
Not on Google, but I found his modeling portfolio, and it was stellar. Just really huge brands, huge, like GQ and Vogue and Spreads and everything. And he never, in the 2 months that I was interacting with him via call occasionally, or like, here's an article you should read, or have you thought about this, back and forth, he never said a thing. So I looked up his profile, and it was stunning, and it was high level, high end. And I said, hey, I texted him and said, hey, can we have FaceTime? And that $1 million face pops up. And the first thing I said to him,
this is a gorgeous Lyft driver that's writing the great
American and wickedly brilliant, just smart and just super zen, just super calm and excited. But and I said, is this you? And I held my phone with my laptop, and he said, yeah, didn't I mention? I was like, no. I said, I just got to ask one question. I know what kind of money. I got friends who are agents in the industry. I know what kind of money you're making when you're doing these projects for the last 10 years. Why are you driving Lyft? And he gave the single greatest answer. He said, I was looking for you.
What a Hollywood answer.
And I said, that's cool. He said, I know I have the creativity, but I don't know how to get it out there.
Well, make sure that line's in the biopic. So it was good that Noah is not a serial killer, but let's pretend you are for a second.
Cool.
And you have to come over with your death row meal. That was a nice segue. Right?
So I know people who had death row meals, but not really there's not a lot of death row where I was in prison. So, it wasn't and it was, they always talk about it, but you don't really, that's one of the things. Hi, I'm a convicted felon. And then one of the things you talk about, people talk about, really those who don't know where they're going to, or they have a mandatory, and they know kind of, I'm going to get out in 5 years. They talk about what their next meal is going to be. Very rarely do they talk about their death row meal, because there's not a lot of death row action going on. Women, especially, it's very unusual. I was friends with a lot of lifers. Yeah. And it's interesting that the lifers that I have 2 very dear friends who were lifers that we were able to get out of prison because they didn't commit the crimes. Oh. One received a commutation I wrote a commutation from President Obama and signed it. And one was able to get out of for 32 years of being incarcerated for, she did nothing. I mean, I knew So anyway, we did talk about like what's the first thing you're gonna eat, and so there you go.
I think it's sort of like the question is what is, I guess, your ultimate meal, but I think we can wrap our heads around the concept of a death row meal. So you went with a very
classic. I went with crow because if I'm dying, I might as well say, yeah, I did it, whatever.
You did go with crow, and I did want to point out that
appetizers and 2 hors d'oeuvres, and I did say yes.
I did find a how to cook crow thing. Here's the thing that bothers me is, have we eaten all the birds? Why do we eat certain birds? Like, are we sure chicken and turkey is where we should stop? I mean, crow, I don't know if it's going to be good, but I've never had it.
First of all, what do you call a group of crows?
A murder. Well, I'm good. But look at this. This is a crow crostini. I mean, that looks.
So I got to be honest with you. My husband's a chef, and we have in the refrigerator right now, we have a dozen quail eggs.
Oh, see, quail. So that's the thing. Like, there's a whole bunch of birds out there.
Quail are Barbie food. Have you ever eaten a quail?
It's very small.
It's this big. The drumsticks are like that. It's Barbie food. It's not real. I'm not a fan.
I understand the practical application of eating big giant birds, but I'm saying, like, I tried crow. I've never seen crow on a menu. So but you know, just
you tried crow or you have done crow?
I would, but I've never. They don't serve it at Wendy's.
I'm sure they're gamey as hell. What do they eat? They eat nasty.
I don't mind gamey. I like venison. Anyway, let's go to. So you have gone classically American bistro, which is another point of contention with me just in life. When people name their favorite like cuisines, nobody ever says American, but American cuisine is very fucking good. I think most of this is like traditionally American. The big dumb salad.
I threw it a hook with the chai. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, okay, I'll give you the chai, but the oat milk, like the fact that we're sort of like, all right, we can't, you know what I mean?
Dude, I'm kosher, so I can't have real milk with meat, so I'm good with this.
See, there you go, right? So you started off with salad. You didn't specify what kind of salad, but I looked up like steakhouse salad, and I figured this was an accurate representation. Mm-hmm. Again, I've done the show a lot of times. Everybody, except for one person, I think, has incorporated some sort of potato. So you're doing a baked potato. This is a loaded baked potato, which I think is the king of the potatoes. What I like that you did, though, was the tomahawk steak, which has never represented here. A lot of people do a filet.
And tomahawk is a weapon.
And you can potentially break out of prison with once you finish the steak.
Yeah, you take the bone and you go back to your cell and you
shank somebody. Is that what you're saying, prison? Yeah. Do you do a sauce with the steak? Because I feel like no. Interesting.
Nope.
I like a blue cheese butter, but I guess in your case, if you're kosher, you can't mix the two, and that would be but like an A1. I think that's dairy free. That would ruin this steak, though. You can't put an A1 on it.
A really good steak that's really well cooked, which I highly doubt would happen in prison.
Right.
I think those meals they actually order out.
I think they do too, which is a shame. They should bring you to a.
Bring you to? No, here's what's crazy. If you've been in prison in Iowa, I don't know about any of us, 10 years or longer, the week before you're released, they set, the week before, they put you in a police car.
Yeah.
In your scrub, we wore scrubs, not like DOC things. It was even the feds who were there didn't wear DOC things. You wore scrubs that have no identification on them as far as being prison. And a sheriff deputy, a woman, walks unhandcuffed, walks you through a Walmart.
Oh.
Now think about 10 years difference. The last time you're in a Walmart and this time. The scanners, the everything, the amount of products, the diversity, the aisles and aisles of not American, whatever, like life has changed. That's their only re-entry into society is a casual 30-minute walk through Walmart. Then they bring them back and then they process them and send them home.
I think that it's cruel that it does Walmart. You should probably go to a state park or something. But I do think Walmart's a nice middle ground between real life and prison, because you know what I mean. It's kind of shitty. I think half the population of a Walmart is probably served time, so I think it's maybe like it's a nice temperature. You know,
yes.
It's not.
I have been known to go to Walmart after no makeup, not shower on set. Looking like holy hell, and I still could be Miss America compared to some of the others.
Exactly, and you served time, so you're proving my point entirely. Most people in Walmart.
They kept asking me, "Why don't you have tattoos?" I'm like, "Why?"
Save that for your second stint. You got to leave a little something for the sequel, you know.
There you go. Okay.
All right. So you're doing a chai tea with oat milk. Okay. And then you've gone, I didn't know if it was peanut butter chips or if it's just like a peanut butter cookie with chocolate in it, but it was peanut butter, chocolate.
Peanut butter with chocolate chip, hot, warm out of the oven cookies. Yeah, that'd be my.
That peanut butter chocolate combination that's almost, I'm agnostic, almost proof that there's God. That's how good that combination is. I don't know who discovered that, but my Reese's.
You've seen the commercials? Come on.
I did, where they crash into each other.
Yeah.
I want to believe that's true.
It is. It's the salty, sweet. It's the combo. So I had a very dear friend who had lost a sense of taste as a child. I don't mean he married bad women. I mean, he did actually, but whatever. But I mean, his taste improved, but he really, and the only thing he could get was salty. He could get the sensation of salty and sweet and bitter and whatever on his tongue. That was it. So he'd only eat for texture. So, but he could get the salty and the sweet and the from the cookies. So that's how I learned to make them. I don't use a recipe. I just know how the dough is supposed to be, and then I make them. And
for your friend without taste, that's very altruistic of you. That's nice.
Oh yeah, because he couldn't taste anything, so want to give him something that had mouthfeel and excited his taste buds. Good man.
If I ever lose the sense, I'm going to come to you for baked goods. And then you are finishing the meal with a bottle of Icelandic vodka.
It's so good. Have you not gone this direction?
I've not had it. I'm more of a bourbon guy. I'm not opposed to any liquor. I drink anything. I'm not opposed to it. But
that's what it said on the bathroom wall, by the way. You'll drink anything.
Yeah, of course.
Your America's sweetheart will drink anything. But it's the women's bathroom, so you're good. Okay.
That is my kink. Icelandic vodka in the ladies' bathroom.
So take a bottle. It's not expensive. $22 maybe. Put it in the freezer. Hot day. It has no needle. It's so smooth through the lava, whatever processes it goes through, that it just hits the back of it just like soaks in your tongue. It's just the smoothest vodka ever. Nothing.
Is it like it's like getting drunk on water? Is that what you're saying? Because that would be a goal of mine.
Super icy cold, a little bit thicker water, but not icy. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
You know what? Okay, so just anecdotally, I bartended for like 7 years. I worked at
shocked, Eric.
It's weird, right? So I worked at a place that was a martini bar when martinis were like the thing, but they were martinis in name alone because an appletini is not really a fucking martini, but you get my point.
Yeah.
So the whole claim to fame is that they had every vodka that you could get in Massachusetts. So anything that was allowed to be. So people would ask me what the best vodka is. I thought, because I don't want the burn in a vodka, there's this stuff called Jewel of Russia, and it's like drinking water. And it was fantastic. But some people like the bite. And I was just saying that because as a bourbon drinker, I want it to burn my soul. Like I don't want smooth is almost like a thing I'm not into anymore.
Interesting.
Yeah, I like to punish myself.
How do you think that correlates with your regular life? Would you rather take your pain out with your drink and not in life? Are you risk adverse in life? But if I do this, I'm still risking something.
I would say if we had to psychoanalyze me, I am.
Yeah.
I have no like sadomasochism in me. I want to be comfortable all the time. So I think in order to balance that, maybe I like it when I drink. Because under normal circumstance, I just want to be in a hammock eating soft cheeses. But the one thing, I hate running. I hate everything.
I'm in a hammock eating soft cheeses. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Right. That's how I want to be. That's how I want to live the rest of my life. So I think the one thing that I want a little friction is the burn of the bourbon,
Makes sense. There has to be balance.
There has to be this
yang. Can't just have yang.
No, the universe seeks balance.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. The last question was, what is your favorite quote? And who do we have here? Robin Williams. May he rest in peace. What's right is what's left if you do everything else wrong. This is your favorite quote. How did this come into your life? What does it mean to you?
So 1982, probably 1982, he did a Showtime. He did a improv at the and at the night at the Improv in San Francisco.
Yeah,
and it was really his first foray, like in a huge venue that went on Showtime. With cable was a pup at the time, and it was the thing you learn with Robin Williams is when you're watching him, you can't laugh because you will miss the next three lines.
Yeah, it's so frantic and manic.
So fast, and delivered so fast. Such a concrete idea, so fast. So, and I may have quoted incorrectly for you. I think it's what's right is what's left after you do everything else wrong. So I may have made that mistake.
Close enough.
he plays a character that's watching him, an old guy who's watching himself, and said, hey kid, I knew you could do this. I'm really proud of you. Like maybe what he didn't get from his parents, I don't know. Maybe he did. I don't know. And it is full of lines. And he says, remember, kid, what's right is what's left after you do everything else wrong. So that always stuck with me. Like life is full of twists and turns. I didn't do a single thing I wasn't advised to do by 3 attorneys and the state film commissioner. Yet somehow I went to prison. Now, arguably, I get that. Like that was, whatever. We're going to have a whole bunch of bing bongs in a second. So it was meant to happen, and I had a great experience. Like I had a great time. Ooh, who's the bell tolling for? So I had a great experience there. Like I met amazing people. I love stories. I love to capture stories. I love to tell stories. So this was like a bonanza for me in a lot of ways. I witnessed violence, but I never had an altercation. I was Orthodox. I'm Orthodox Jew. Like I don't eat non-kosher, and they tried to give me non-kosher, and I wouldn't do it. And like it was a big thing, and whatever. And there's a very interesting theme that runs through that is everybody knew my story that watched the whole thing and for years on TV, like, and appeals and this thing. They knew that I hadn't done anything wrong. Innocent people walk differently. And that when you meet someone and like, I got to, okay. And they just do. We just did. And so right away it was like, hey, help her, don't screw with her kind of thing. So that was very cool. But I had just done everything right. But what was left was what I got out of the experience, which was huge, which I would not have traded for the world. Like you said, I mean, it was so hard for my family, my husband, my kids. So I miss my son's bar mitzvah. Like that's just the worst thing in the world. But at the same time, like my parents would write me letters in prison. We're so proud of you. We love you so much. And the guards would like walk around and hold those letters and go, who writes this? Because they had to read them first to see if there was any inherent threats or whatever. And they were just amazed, like, who has parents like this? I said, I do. That's why you're like this. And I went to help everybody. So at that point in time, I was like, okay, I'm a pariah. And people said to me, no, go back to work. I'll help you. What's right is what's left after you do everything else wrong. I didn't do anything else. I didn't do anything wrong. They say, you forwarded an email. That was your attempt to, no, it wasn't. I forwarded an email from the state film commissioner to somebody else. Now, conversely, he subsequently, after I was sentenced to 10 years in a women's maximum security.
I saw that. That's crazy.
A couple months later, the state film commissioner had 9 felony counts against him. He's obviously fired, and he went on trial. And he was acquitted in 8 counts. And the one count he was convicted of by a jury was felonious misconduct in office for misdirecting me.
Oh.
So the guy who was specified in the legislation to tell us what to do told me what to do along with every other producer, and he was convicted of misdirecting me, and that was inadmissible. You couldn't. My trial was over. The sentencing, we appealed it. All right. So as mom said to me, you're never uncomfortable anywhere. So I just lived out her directions, and I had a blast. I met great women. It was so fascinating. The guards, I would tell them jokes. Like everybody's like, when are you getting out of here? It's at the minute God decides that I can do more good outside than inside. But right now, I guess I need to hear.
I saw a documentary about women's prison. It was on Cinemax one night. Caged Heat 3. Have you seen that? Is that?
I lived that. I don't have to see that, but it's really, yeah.
Did you think you were doing all 10 years when you got the thing? Because you didn't do how long?
I did 6 months and 4 days. And then the chief judge over this district took my case away from the schmuck judge. I mean, the misinformed, opinionated, angry judge that had it.
Yeah.
And sentenced me. And he called me into court. And he said, I don't know why you're incarcerated at all. Like he said, had I been presiding, it would have been a completely different outcome. You're going home today.
As a tax-paying citizen, like I don't know the ins and outs of your crime. You don't seem like somebody we need to get.
There's no money attached. I had no restitution. If you and I park illegally outside and we get a ticket, that is restitution. But I didn't commit a crime. So they're like, well, it's like a Chinese menu, egg roll, $3, whatever.
Yeah.
I didn't commit a crime. But they just had to get somebody. They'd arrested the film commissioner, and oh, the film commissioner, guilty of a felony, and he got the same judge that sentenced me to 10 years because I was whatever. I personally corrupted 2 different departments of state government. He was working for the government. He had done this. He was convicted, and he got a $750 fine, and he walked away.
Well, I got to tell you, I mean, I'm sure 6 months away from your family sucked. Missing the bar mitzvah is terrible, but for the rest of your life, you get to say that you were a convicted felon, which is pretty.
And then people walk free now because they're my Facebook friends now, and I adore them. See? And and it was. And here's the thing the difference. I think everybody has a story.
That's a pretty good story.
Most people don't feel they have the permission to tell their story. Yeah. Which is why I think tattoos are so prevalent, because if I can't tell you my story and not be judged, I'm going to get a tattoo that tells my story, and I'm going to wear whatever, have clothes over it, and nobody can see it, but at least I've told my story. We all have a story.
This was a great interview. The only thing that I lament is the fact that you don't have a Sledgehammer of Love prison tattoo, because that would, unless you, I don't know.
You are the very first who's ever asked me for one, to have one. And, no, I mean, no. Sledgehammer of Love Productions. No, we're Now What Studios. And Now What Studios came from very simple. Our business mentor, forward modus operandi. So what? Now what? In his honor. And the fact that Noah liked Mark a lot because Mark used to smoke dope with Bob Marley. Can't get a better business mentor than that.
Who hasn't?
No, I mean, with him, not with him.
Oh, with it. Okay, like actually with I just meant he was in the background. All right, I'm gonna let you stick around. I'm gonna stop the live because it's an hour. But let's talk in the green room. This was great. Thank you for being on. Do you want to plug anything real quick? I know that you talked about the book, but you can't say where it's gonna be. So
can't say. My Golden Blood. Watch for it. It will change lives.
Okay. Wendy, thank you for being here. Thanks for telling your prison story. I love every second of it. We will be back Monday, I think. We'll see. We'll see if the guest shows up. It's always a crapshoot. Bye, America.